Good morning, all. Thank you, Gabriela, for this wonderful opening. I'm Anton from UZI Lugano in Switzerland, and I'm happy to be here to present this work conducted together with my co-authors, Masako Kitazaki from Musashiro Art University, who's in the audience right now, and William Odom from Simon Fraser University as well in the audience, and Marc Langheinrich from UZI Lugano. Let me start with the context here. Sharing economy services are very popular today. You might know or use this kind of services. They allow effectively and efficiently connect people who have resources like cars, apartments, and tools, and who need them at the given time using an online platform. Going forward, the report from the British government from 2015, I think, predicted that sharing economy services will reach a 50% market share in 2025 in accommodation and car sharing sectors. So this is all on the rise. However, those three examples of popular sharing economy services on the left are profit-driven, so they take in cut on each transaction and somewhat controversial in their nature in terms of how they treat their workers and implications for when it comes to taxation and stuff like that. So, however, in addition to these services, we also see the rise of the non-profit approaches to shared economy that might be less known, but equally important, such as local resource sharing communities and collectives, tools and equipment libraries, and various grassroots initiatives and cooperatives. So now, there's some commonalities and differences between these two. So both enable peer-to-peer interactions and allow temporal relations between peers, and often using an online platform as a tool to access to the shared resources. However, there's many differences with regard to the business models when it comes to expectations of compensations, environmental concerns, and impacts on the local communities. On the whole, both approaches, profit-driven and non-profit approaches, to the shared economy generated some interest in the HCI community and subsequently created substantial research knowledge. Now, we wanted to know how can designers both improve existing shared economy platforms and create the new ones. To approach this goal, in our previous work, we reviewed relevant HCI studies and attempted to map this design space of sharing economy into the five main themes, which is shared content, addressing the question what is being shared, target audience, inquiry into whom sharing takes place, motivations to share, addressing why actually people share stuff, and aspects of privacy and trust, which inquires how users feel about privacy and trust issues when deciding to share, and requirements to the user experience. Those concerns with a question like how is the sharing taking place. Additionally, we also formulated in our previous work, based on this mapping, a set of specific design recommendations to support design practitioners of online platforms to devise new value-added services for the sharing economy in general, and facilitate the creation of instances of alternative sharing economy models in particular. So academic audiences often appreciate this kind of insights. However, Rodel and Stolterman found that in general, designers have a number of challenges to interpret considerations produced by the design researchers. They often find them too abstract, too difficult to use, and too hard to search for. Specific question that we wanted to ask in this paper is how we can make our design insights more accessible to the design practitioners. We sought inspiration in the design cards as a genre of the design toolkits to translate the knowledge between design research and design practice. Firstly, design cards have been found useful in various application domains. For example, they helped conceptualizing the IoT applications, raising awareness about data protection regulations, and supporting design of tangible learning games, as well as making use of different theories like behavioral change theories to design interactive systems. Secondly, cards design cards support various design activities, such as collaborative and playful ideation, co-design, prototyping, and etc. We therefore drew on these efforts and have developed sharing economy designed cards with a goal to aid designers in operationalizing their research knowledge in the context of sharing economy. Our card deck consisted of 24 cards, covered these 5 particular themes: content, audience, motivations, aspects of privacy and trust, and user experience. They are all distinctly colored, and we also included a blank card for each theme to allow their extensibility. So this is not it's a growing set. Each card is divided into the 7 sections. First is the card's theme, then it's a leading question, then we have a design goal here, searchable keywords, actionable recommendation, detailed description, and an example from an existing service. We formulated 2 research questions around cards use. We wanted to know, to understand opportunities and challenges adapting the cards in the designer's creative processes, and secondly, we wanted to specifically understand how can cards being used in different stages of the design process. For that, to answer these questions, we designed a study that consisted of 2 stages. First stage was individual interviews with 16 designers and sharing economy experts, and on the second stage, we engaged in the 2 creative workshops with the 5 participants each, also with designers and sharing economy expert community. At the first stage, the goal of these individual interviews was to elicit designers and experts' professional reflections about the cards themselves and understand how the cards could be used for evaluating existing sharing economy platforms. We conducted most of our interviews using Skype and audio recorded them, and we then transcribed them verbatim and quoted parts of the that were relevant to our research questions. At the second stage, the goal was to understand the potential value of the cards in the process of creating new value-added services in the sharing economy in collaborative setting. We recorded and analyzed video data from both workshops, as well as we collected participants' reports produced during the workshops. We developed a corresponding design methodology for the card's use in a collaborative workshop based on the Google Design Sprint approach. Each sprint took 2 hours and consisted of 8 different individual and group activities adapted from the prior work. We specifically chose this sprint format as being close to the industry demands, where designers have to make decisions within limited time and within limited resources. We developed the supporting design materials for the sprint, namely design brief with a prototypical client, a challenge, and a deliverable, a scenario, and 3 personas to facilitate this workshop. And we also created several mapping and prototyping templates to aid different stages of the sprint. We elicited a range of reflections and reactions on the card's use, from perceptions of their usefulness to considerations on their use in the participants' work, as well as to prospective adaptations in the different stages of the design process, to the reflections how to create new materials using the cards. For the purpose of this talk, I will focus only on 2 sets of insights. For the rest, I will invite you to check out the paper. I will start with opportunities and difficulties. Participants discussed the value of the cards to support both existing and new instances of sharing economy services, and argued on the importance of looking beyond profit-driven aspirations, like in the case of Gladys. Sharing economy platforms are rather new phenomena. There are many of them now. You pay and you get the service. The cards let the designer step back and look at the bigger picture, to slow down a bit and to think how we can improve a service in different ways beyond an economic point of view. Some of our participants saw the cards as a checklist featuring best practices, which can be cross-referenced against the platform designs. Morton spelled this out. For example, picking one of those cards and checking that the goal is already designed in the service, or there'll be more work to do. Also, after moving to the right side of the card and checking some of the concrete examples how to manifest this kind of goals on the UI level. With reference to the challenges of adopting cards, we encountered that though examples were regarded very informative and clarifying, they also raised concerns of being too specific. Nevertheless, participants found them to be especially beneficial for the less experienced designers and even non-designers. Those examples make me focus and comply to the goal in a way that may limit my imagination. However, they might be good for those who struggle to interpret the goal. Furthermore, several participants contemplated on the card's use to structure their design critique, like in the case of Pierre. I don't have to think about the process. The cards are hint for me to use within my expert feedback. The colored themes are helping me to structure my thoughts and overall documentation process from different perspectives. There are some ready-made suggestions that I can communicate with the client and provide me a certain confidence when it comes to the naming section of the reports. Moving on, our findings involved the cards were useful in different stages of the design process. For instance, participants found the cards useful in the focused brainstorming sessions during the sprint and used combinations of cards looking for the similar threads. Aubrey explained, I was going deeper and deeper within a single goal per theme and expanded it to extreme in order to see how the goal could be implemented on the context, audience, privacy, and trust levels. One can focus on one specific goal that could be seen or interpreted through different layers of content, motivation, UX, in order to build a coherent story. As expected, cards were widely used during this sketching and prototyping activities. There was a few examples of the wireframes, lo-fi prototypes, interactive flows that envisioned during our workshop. Here, they illustrated the design concept of the local toy bank and target audiences. They proposed an online service that would support the renting and sharing of upcycled toys. On the picture on the left, Diana highlighted how the cards can help to develop her concept. The features I added to the thanks to the cards were donate option, age selection, and storytelling. Both interview and workshop participants reported beneficial to use the cards to dedicate their designs to their colleagues and group of stakeholders. Emma detailed that the description part of the card was crucial during this phase. I also like the images and little stats that you have here in the card. If you're going to present to your client, in this deliverable, you can use the cards as a kind of give yourself some credibility advocating particular design decisions. Few participants mentioned that some of the themes, such as privacy and trust, were often overlooked in the early stages of the design process, and here Odom emphasized the importance of that. Privacy is often left out at the design stage. Usually the solution architect tries to add it at the later stage, and designers don't often think about it. The card just reminds them how to bring this issue up. The majority of our participants agreed that the cards can be used as a guiding tool to evaluate existing platforms and services. What is more, participants reported that cards helped them to understand some of the design issues they were not anticipated earlier, like in the case of Johanna. The card helped me to notice a problem that I didn't take into consideration. Even though I didn't find a solution for the issue just now, the card helped me to approach the problem. Furthermore, cards offered potential design solutions for those problems, like in the case of Warden. For an average user, it's hard to say often whether rating 4.2 is good or bad. Airbnb could provide some contextual information, such as service ratings in certain city, explain what this rating means. Like if you click on accuracy, it can be described for those who opt in to learn more about it. Collectively, these card deployments illustrated how they can be used during different stages of design process, as well as they provoke discussion on the commonalities and differences between the other design toolkits. Our findings showed that the cards not only facilitated to create new design materials to inform decision-making in a group setting, but also provided hands-on guidance on different parts of the design process, like focused brainstorming, prototyping activities, advocating results to stakeholders, refining and detailed ideas. And more importantly, they can be used for evaluating existing platforms and identifying potential design issues. This use of the cards as analytic toolkits are rarely described in the literature. What is more, while numerous prior studies in the design cards had actively supported the divergent step of the design process, our research highlights the key value for better supporting the convergence activities, like deciding on particular design concept or advocating their decisions. Many design toolkits adopt abstract visual examples for brainstorming purposes. We extended this approach to our cards and incorporated screenshots of the actual UIs from the existing platforms. It was found particularly useful for junior designers and non-designers who struggle to interpret the goal or a recommendation. To address concerns of limited times and resources that practitioners have to employ broader approaches to design, such as contextual interviews, our cards can be seen as a what-to and how-to toolkit to help designers to navigate specifics of the sharing economy and to develop their ideas in this space by offering adequate amount of details needed at different stages of the design process. To wrap it up, our paper offered two contributions: the cards and the corresponding design methodology for their use in the collaborative context, and insights and findings that surfaced during two deployments with the 26 participants. In particular, our participants found the cards useful not only in collaborative activities to create new sharing economy design concepts, but also in individual activities to provide structured design critique on the well-known existing platforms. I brought card over here if you would like to check them out later, and also they're available for download. If you're interested to hear more about alternative models of the sharing economy, we are organizing a special interest group later this afternoon after lunch, so with the colleagues, and we hope to see you there as well. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Questions, please? Yeah, one here.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for an interesting talk. I was wondering whether the designers that you involved in your study, whether they had already or planning on working on shared economy platforms, or whether they were just general designers, not necessarily experienced with shared economy.
Thank you for your question. The question was about whether designers priorly knew about the sharing economy or not. In our particular instance, the designers were only broadly familiar with the concept of a sharing economy. They use the services before, especially in the interviews. We interview them about particular service, but only few of them actually designed the services themselves. So there was kind of a mix of people. That is why we also incorporated in our in the two stages of our study sharing economy experts to provide specific feedback on the content of the cards.
Thanks.
Cool. Any other questions, please?
We have one from the audience, but.
Yeah. And please, I would like to ask people to move towards the center so that they allow people who are standing to take a seat. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for an interesting talk. I see that your cards address things like accountability, and I was just curious if the cards, will they all be used to create these oppressive power structures like we seem to see in Uber, or do you have things that kind of explicitly guide a way? How can you see the sort of power structures within what you're going to create? And is that an issue, or is that something you leave to the users of the cards? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. The question about accountability and power structures and possibility to creating them using the cards. So maybe I should give you a little bit of context. The cards were created as an effort surveying literature on the digital sharing as well as sharing economy. So lots of issues come up and challenges that we try to incorporate and reflect in these cards. Particularly aspects of power, they are not very clearly explicitly visible there. So that's why we kind of open up, and for every single theme of the cards, we offer the blank cards of experts and designers, and could kind of add their own thoughts and ideas. And for instance, those themes about power. So we're not trying to kind of enforce. We let the designers think about it and make their own decisions about the audience who are involved in about the stakeholders of that. So it was kind of open-ended in a way.
Thank you very much. Let's give Anton another round of applause.